get going on the actual panel discussion, what I'd like to do is request Sanjay Kumar to make some opening remarks about this book, the sort of work which went into it, why they thought it worthwhile to pursue this research project, and perhaps a few of the significant results which you found in your research.
Let me tell you what went behind or what provoked me to do such kind of a book on this issue. You would remember soon after 2009 Lok Sabha election, there were a lot of news in the media that this is a young house and there are lots of young MPs in this house. And the reference was for young MPs, those who are in the age group of 25 to 40. So when we tried to look at, there was lots and lots of news of this kind. We did one basic check, and the check was looked at the age of all the elected MPs in the house and found out that there are only 79 MPs in this present house who are in the age group of 25 to 40. We couldn't make out whether it is high or low. So what we did, we actually tried to check with the previous house, and we found out that even in 2004, there were exactly the same number of MPs in the same age group. And we actually went back and compared it with 52, 57 with all the Lok Sabha, except one Lok Sabha election, which was 98 or 99, where there were less numbers than 79. There were only 72 in this age group. All other house had, in fact, more MPs in this age group. So this whole news about this house being young was actually not true. So we, as a team at Lokniti CSTS, we thought that even this basic research has not been done, but there are lots and lots of news about house being very young. And when we actually look at, and why there was so much of news about that, I thought if you look at who are these 79 young MPs who got elected to the 2009 Lok Sabha election, large proportions of them were sons and daughters of big politicians. And that is why, while they were not in bigger proportions in the house, but their stature was big. And that's why I thought that there was an echo that this house is a younger house compared to the previous house. The other story which kept roaming around, which kept circulating was after Rahul Gandhi's campaign in 2009 and after 2000 Congress victory in 2009, many believed that young voters in the country actually voted for Congress in big numbers. Again, we tried to look at the data since 1996 election. We at the CSDS have been doing large-scale survey. This is a data which you do not get from Election Commission, age-wise voting. So you can actually infer this based on the survey. So we have conducted large-scale surveys, and we tried to compare the voting pattern of the young voters. And when I say young voters, these are in the age group of 18 to 25. We tried to look at the voting patterns of the young voters, compare it with voters of other age group, not for only 2009, but we tried to also compare it for 96, 98, 99, 2004 Lok Sabha election. So this is kind of a series of data which we tried to put in the book, and we figured out that actually the voting preference, the party to which young voters vote, was not very different compared to voters of other age group. So if among the voters of other age group, 20% have voted for party A, even among the young voters, 20% have voted for the same party. So there is no specific preference when it comes to voting among the younger voters. So when we encountered these two questions, which is based on the data which was already lying with us, we thought of doing a proper research on this whole issue of what is the relationship between youth and politics. Because this small thing, we thought these are the two small things which could have been checked very easily, and the data is lying at several places. And when we figured out that these two things about which there was a lot of talk, but these actually didn't test, these were not true. So we thought of preparing a proposal, try to look at the whole relations of youth and politics. And that is, this book is a product of the research which we did, a nationwide research, which was done just before Anna Hazare movement started. The fieldwork was conducted before that. And even before that, we saw that the relationship of youth and politics is not as weak as we think, but also when it comes to voting preference, we don't see a clear choice about a party among the youth. Maybe
so perhaps we'll go into the more granular details of your work as we go along. So it's interesting. Today is National Voters Day, and perhaps an apt time to be discussing Indian youth and electoral politics. So I just pick up from one of the main points which Sanjay Kumar made, that there's so much discussion in the newspapers and channels that this year, coming elections, 120 million new voters will be casting their vote, potentially, assuming they register for the electoral process. And last year, in 2009, the Congress's total victory margin was, I got 13 million votes then. Total votes scored by the Congress, was 13 million, and on that 120 million new voters. So perhaps this can change the entire narrative of Indian politics. But I think the point made by Sanjay Kumar is, I think it brings a certain amount of realism into the entire debate, that just numbers don't necessarily translate into a new electoral politics or a new youth politics. So I'll first sort of bring Sanjay Pugalia in here, because Sanjay has been a veteran political analyst and one of the sharpest minds on Indian politics. So Sanjay, what do you make of this? Means people like us, in the newspapers and channels make so much about this 120 million new voters, but are we on the cusp of a new youth politics?
Yeah, I think it has already begun, and we are realizing now, little late, and I always say that media is always behind the change, quite behind the trend. So civil society has moved on, and we couldn't really understand what is the trend. We underestimated what AAP has done, and that is one example that we have before us, that in a very quick time, how such a powerful movement can be built. I think the main reason behind it, and that has not been discussed as a very popular subject, but I think that energy and force is driving it. The age of the nation, and we have been hearing this phrase, demographic dividend. And this demographic dividend is not being captured in our day-to-day news and stories and conversation, even though it is academic discussion that papers like Mint or CNBC would do at some point in time, but television channel won't do much, general news channels won't do much. And especially if you see the northern part of this country, that is much younger than the southern part. So that pressure and that movement is there, and I think post-liberalization, there is a major shift in the way we behave. And what is that? We don't really want to wait. We are too restless. These people are too restless. So instant coffee, instant real-time conversation with people, instant expectation, and then we want instant delivery. Some smart people have really actually tried to sell that dream. It is possible to raise an issue and give you an instant solution by the prime time, evening prime time on television. So that we are seeing the way it is unfolding in Delhi. So earlier they couldn't find a common ground. So youth politics or youth activity was getting defined by social, cultural manifestations. You will see different kind of functions. Look, all national parties had youth wings. चुनाव होते थे यूनिवर्सिटी कॉलेजेस में, उसके बाद यूथ कांग्रेस, ABVP, बीजेपी का युवा मंच, ये सब होता था. कम्युनिस्ट पार्टीज के यूथ विंग बहुत ही पावरफुल, बहुत ही वाइब्रेंट होते थे. लेकिन उन सब में तब हम लोग डिबेट क्या करते थे, और हम गलत डिबेट करते थे कि पॉलिटिक्स तो खराब चीज़ है, यूथ को नहीं जाना चाहिए. अगर कोई पार्टी घुस गई तो हम कहते थे कि कैंपस में ये पॉलिटिक्स क्यों ला रहे हैं. कॉलेज में हमको ऐसे लिखना पड़ता था कि कैंपस में पॉलिटिक्स होनी चाहिए कि नहीं होनी चाहिए. और आज का वक्त ये बदला है कि पॉलिटिक्स होनी चाहिए, ज़बरदस्त तरीके से होनी चाहिए. तो ये जो नीड है सोसाइटी की, वो एक नई कहानी को खड़ा कर रही है, और उस कहानी से ये बात निकल करके आ रही है कि अब पॉलिटिक्स खराब चीज़ नहीं है, अच्छी चीज़ है. अभी भी बहुत लोगों को रिजर्वेशन है कि इसमें जाना चाहिए कि नहीं जाना चाहिए. तो एक बहुत बड़ा ग्रुप होमोजेनस ढंग से सब जगह इसमें स्टेप इन कर रहा है, और मुझे लगता है कि इसको एक आइडेंटिटी या एक कॉमन प्लेटफॉर्म या कॉमन कंस्टिट्यूएंसी के रूप में हम देख रहे हैं. तो उसमें ये जो नया इंफॉर्मेशन रिवॉल्यूशन हमारे सामने है, इंटरनेट वाला और सोशल मीडिया वाला, उसके कारण अब हमको एक कम्युनिटी दिख रही है. इसीलिए पार्टियां कह रही हैं भाई उठो जागो, सोशल मीडिया वालों को पकड़ो, क्योंकि वहाँ पर ये कन्वर्सेशन चल रहा है. और आप लोगों को जान के पता होगा, लेकिन बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग है कि सोशल मीडिया पर अर्बन और इंग्लिश स्पीकिंग से ज़्यादा एक्शन, ज़्यादा इंटेंस कन्वर्सेशन इस वक्त इंडियन लैंग्वेजेस में, हिंदी में, नॉन मेट्रो टाउन्स में और रूरल एरियाज में हो रहा है.
Meera, of course, you have jumped into the fray, and in 2009 took the brave decision of standing as an independent candidate in South Mumbai, and this we've read recently that you've joined AAP, and although one is not clear whether you will be the AAP candidate, but given your experience, and I think you were also involved in, actually saw AAP's New Delhi campaign, do you think that this appeal to the youth is a viable political strategy, or as Sanjay Kumar was suggesting, that the youth does tend to have the same broad voting pattern as the other demographic groups? And secondly, that if it is, this research which they have done stops before the Anna Hazare movement, and was the Anna Hazare movement actually that inflection point for youth politics in India? So if you could just also, given your ground level experience, take us through the AAP campaign and how you see the youth in your campaign in the coming election.
Sure, there are many questions there, Niranjan, but I just looking at the audience, I'd like you to raise your hand if you are in that group between 18 to 25. Can you just show my hand? Okay, so that's wonderful. So I'd just like to get some sense of all of you. How many of you are registered to vote? Please raise your hands. All right, so I would say at least 60%. Are the others planning to register themselves to vote? Okay, very good. And will all of you vote in the elections? Will you all go out to vote?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's in itself, Niranjan, a difference. And I find it very interesting what Sanjay Kumar is saying, is because in this country, we tend to go with Hawa. But sometimes the facts are very important, and I think it's very good to get a reality check on that. And the truth of the matter is that some of these statistics are a bit confusing, because if you remember in 2009, that came after the 2008 26/11 attacks on Mumbai. And the whole of the city was galvanized. I mean, there was not a person in the city who was not involved in some way in candlelight marches or something like that. And quite candidly, that was the reason that I also stood. I said, people like us, we only criticize, we only analyze, we only watch TV. But if we want to do something, let's do it. So thoda junoon tha, keh rahe the ki acha hum bhi kuch karenge. And then we saw the voting percentages, and those came out at 39%. And now when we're looking at actually what was happening in the electoral rolls, and we've been analyzing the electoral rolls very, very carefully, we find that, I'm only talking about South Bombay because I'm not looking at the rolls across the country, but certainly in South Bombay, we find entire buildings have been deregistered. So, places where, for example, I have a lot of my family living, I was looking at just that particular building because, we're saying, okay, how will we gear up, etc. And other than my mother and an aunt of mine, everyone is off the rolls. So I told them, I said, you're off the rolls. They said, what nonsense, we have our election card. But a whole lot of people have just got deregistered. So, we've been with the election commission and saying, look, and they said, yeah, wait until the, 16th, they were supposed to be out on 16th January, now it'll come out sometime this month. So let's say, and this was a hypothesis that someone came with, they said, look, if the voter roll, the hypothesis is that in 2009, let's say your voter roll was 100, but there were 40 fake people on that roll, people who either dead or didn't exist, then your voting percentage, if 39 people voted, let's say 50 people or 60 people voted out of 100, then out of 140 the voting percentage came down. So that could account to it. And I think it's really, really important the work Sanjay is doing, because that gives us some base. Otherwise, hum log sab kehte hain ki acha, South Bombay doesn't vote, everyone goes to Mahabaleshwar, everyone goes to Maldives. I mean, I really don't know whether that is true or not, right? But what I'm really encouraged is that at meeting after meeting, and I'm talking to lots of young people, I'm talking to lots of middle-aged people like myself also. What is certainly true is that after the Anna Hazare movement, something has changed in the dynamics of this country. I think across the country, people are saying, ye hamara desh hai. We have to do something, we have to participate constructively. And I think the India Against Corruption movement had a great role, and Sanjay, the media had a great role, because it has moved issues, political issues, economic issues to center stage. And the typical political dialogue of, tu, main, Kandahar mein kya hua, pappu, feku, and all of this stuff, it's kind of, people are turning around and saying, okay, please put that aside, let's talk, muddo par baat kijiye. That is really important. And so I think something has changed. I'd also like to say is that if you sit back and look across the world, there seems seems to be a secular trend across the world, which is anti-political establishment. Whether it is in Malaysia, in Singapore, the Tea Party in the US, the independent, fellows in UK, this Pepe Grillo in Italy, across the world, the ordinary citizen, right, is turning around and saying the political establishment has become too corrupt, too venal, too distant from all of us, and things have to change. And maybe it's not so much a youth phenomenon as a 21st century phenomenon, where people are saying, you've got to listen to us, you've got to represent us. You're no longer, Joe, I was just thinking about this morning, when people say, you need to be a public servant, तो ये है कि मालिक हो या नौकर हो, मेरा ये कहना है कि एक्चुअली मालिक नौकर का रिलेशनशिप है ही नहीं, सेवक हो. That is what a representative. You are there to serve. It's not a monetary relationship. It is a relationship of trust. And the traditional political establishment everywhere in the world seems to have betrayed that trust.
No, Meera, but I'm still going to persist with my question that while it's what you're saying is true about us overall upsurge in citizens of awareness across the world, the youth. That, for example, you were in Delhi when AAP was campaigning. What role did the youth play?
Well, Niranjan, I'll tell you something. We were campaigning there with the Aam Aadmi Party, and it was just electric. I have to tell you that. I have never experienced something like this. It was a campaign which was powered by volunteers and largely young volunteers, not just Indians, but young Indians from across the world. And during the course of last year, I had for various reasons, opportunity to touch many parts of the world. So I was in the Middle East, I was in Seoul, I was in Japan. And one of the most unusual experiences I had was we were in a small organic restaurant in Dubai, which actually had nothing to do, it wasn't an Indian restaurant. We just gone in there. And this young man came up to us. He was the cashier of that restaurant, and he says, "You are in the Aam Aadmi Party." And at that time, I was not a member of the party, and he didn't know my name, but he knew I was associated because on social media something. So I said, "Who are you?" And he says, "Every day I make 100 calls because they had got this telephone, thing, voice over internet protocol. People from across the world were making calls and campaigning for our candidates." And I said, "Why are you doing this?" And he said, "It's our country. We need to bring change." And that sense, when you talk about the young people, you are a generation which we call the millennials. You were born at the turn of the century. And I find that there is a characteristic amongst this young generation which is different from ours. I don't know whether my colleagues will say, but certainly people like me, we wanted to finish our studies, we wanted to get a good job, we wanted to get our house and our car and the material comforts. And it was okay, politics was kind of a little bit of a dirty business. We didn't want to put our hands and feet in there. This generation is saying, no, we care about different things. We want to earn our money, but we want to spend it in the right way. We care about the planet, we care about the community. You see the number of young people going into NGOs. So there's a different sense in this generation. And that could be, it's not about being young. I think this generation is special, and that is driving change.
Thanks, Meera. I'm glad you asked for a show of hands because it's quite ironical. We're talking about youth politics and 4 of us are not exactly part of the target audience. So perhaps it makes sense to also invite more questions, because they are the ones who actually are the main actors in this transition. But before that, I want to ask a question to Sanjay Kumar about his specific research. I think a few months ago, or perhaps more, the economists had done a nice chart. What they had done was they had taken the average age of a country and the average age of representatives in parliament. And the widest gap was India, the youngest population and the most aged parliament, and it's very clear that there was something wrong there. So in your research, did you find any sort of preference among young voters that they prefer young candidates? Would this movement towards more young voters eventually translate into, less gerontocratic sort of Indian politics, younger representatives as well?
See, the whole problem is that there is a big gap between idea and action. Actually touched upon this issue in the research. there were 140 parliamentary constituency in 2009 from either a young MP got elected or he was a runner-up. So what we have done in these constituency, we asked this question about if there is a young candidate, would you be voting for that candidate? If you ask this question to the people, to the young voters, a lot of them are willing to say yes, if there is a young candidate, we are willing to support that young candidate, we are willing to vote for them. So this is, as an idea, it attracts them. But what we did, we also did analysis of the voting pattern in these constituencies where the young candidate was available to them, because either he was elected or he was a runner-up candidate. So we tried to look at how the young people voted in these constituencies where the option was available to them. And if you look at that, then it is again flat. It actually resembles any other constituency. So in terms of ideas, yes, they are attracted towards this idea. But when it comes to action, at least till 2009 Lok Sabha election, we don't see that translating into action. So that's the problem. That's the big gap.
I just want to step back a bit because I asked Meera this question about, a lot of your research in a way is a reality check on sort of our fondly held hopes about, young India. So I want to ask both the Sanjays in a sense, the question I asked Meera about, is the Anna Hazare movement, has something changed in terms of youth participation? So if Sanjay, you could go first.
थोड़ा सा इसमें मैं कॉन्ट्रारियन व्यू इसलिए ले रहा हूँ ताकि डिस्कशन थोड़ा और प्रोवोकेटिव हो सके। जेपी मूवमेंट जब हुआ था तो वो मूवमेंट भी एक बूढ़े आदमी ने लीड किया था, लेकिन उस वक्त के जितने लीडर थे वो यंग थे, फियरस लीडर थे। नीतीश कुमार से लेके लालू यादव से लेके रामविलास, ये सब उससे निकल करके आए थे। यंगेस्ट एमपी था, हाईएस्ट वोट से जीत के आया था रामविलास पासवान। उसके बाद दूसरा मूवमेंट ऐसा एंटी एस्टेब्लिशमेंट जिसको बोलते हैं, जो मूवमेंट नहीं लगा था, इलेक्टोरल पॉलिटिक्स पॉलिटिकिंग लगी थी, लेकिन वो वीपी सिंह वाला फेज था। उसने भी कमाल किया। कोई नहीं चाहता था कि आदमी प्राइम मिनिस्टर बने, पब्लिक का मूड था कि ये बने, तो उस वक्त भी एक यंग वॉइस सामने आई थी। लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि अभी की यंग वॉइस एम्पलीफाइड बहुत ज़्यादा इसलिए है कि हर 100 आदमी में 65 आदमी 35 साल के नीचे का है। इज दैट द राइट डेटा संजय जी? 65% पीपल आर अंडर 35 years of age. So that voice has become much fresher and different and amplified and being captured by this enlightened and all-encompassing media all the time. तो अभी जब हम देखेंगे तो लगेगा कि अन्ना हजारे का मूवमेंट बिल्कुल यूथ से ड्रिवन है। लेकिन दो कंट्रारियन पॉइंट रखना चाहता हूँ प्रोवोकेशन के लिए, शायद मैं उस पर बिलीव नहीं करता हूँ। मैंने किसी से पूछा, दिल्ली के एक पुराने बाशिंदे से, जानकार सोशल साइंटिस्ट हैं, कि ये कैसे हुआ, ऐसा मोबिलाइजेशन कैसे हुआ? क्योंकि दिल्ली में एक यूथ लीडर बैठा है, 43 साल का है, राहुल गांधी है उसका नाम, सबसे बड़ा यूथ लीडर है, इसके पीछे यूथ नहीं जा रहा है। और ये एक मिडिल क्लास का इनकम टैक्स की नौकरी छोड़ने वाला, उधर एक अन्ना हजारे, एक बूढ़े आदमी के साथ यूथ जा रहा है। फिर नेशनल डेटा जो संजय जी के सर्वे से आए हैं कि दिल्ली छोड़ दें तो पूरे देश में जो यूथ है मैक्सिमम, वो नरेंद्र मोदी के पीछे जा रहा है। अलग अलग ट्रेंड है अलग अलग जगह। दिल्ली की स्टोरी ज़्यादा एम्पलीफाइड होती है तो थोड़ा हम कन्फ्यूज़ हो जाते हैं। उसने ये जवाब दिया जो थोड़ा मुझे मीन लगता है, मैं कन्विंस नहीं हूँ उससे, लेकिन मैं शेयर करूँगा आप लोगों से, कि देखिए हर वक्त दिल्ली में कई हज़ार लोग, कम से कम 25,000 लोग यूपीएससी की तैयारी के लिए आते हैं, नौकरी के लिए आते हैं। एक अटेम्प्ट करते हैं, फेल होते हैं, दूसरा अटेम्प्ट फेल करते हैं, फेल होते हैं, सिनिकल हो जाते हैं, फिर कुछ लोग जर्नलिज्म में चले आते हैं। मेरी टीम में मैं लगातार देखता हूँ बहुत सारे लोग हैं कि सिविल सर्विसेज में फेल होने के बाद अब जर्नलिस्ट बनने के लिए आ गए। तो एक नाराज़, गुस्से में भरा हुआ, कर गुजरने वाला यूपी बिहार के लोग ज़्यादा होते हैं, बहुत ही पॉलिटिकल होते हैं। तो एक कैचमेंट एरिया अवेलेबल है आपके लिए। क्या एक बहुत बड़े आइडिया से इंस्पायर्ड होके है? बुरा मत मानिएगा मीरा, मुझे लगता है कि जॉबलेसनेस की सिचुएशन ने भी इन आंदोलनों को पावर किया है। कोई गलत नहीं है, लेकिन कृपया ये मत बोलिए कि बहुत महान गांधी आइडिया के पीछे मेरे पीछे कोई दौड़ रहा है। मेरी बेचैनी है, इसलिए मुझे गुस्सा आया, इसलिए मुझे कर रहा हूँ, मुझे नौकरी नहीं मिल रही है। पढ़ के ठीक ठाक आया था, लेकिन देखिए पढ़ने में क्या प्रॉब्लम है। जो मिडिल एरिया है पूरा, टॉपर तो 100% वाले, 90% वाले थोड़े से लोग होते हैं। जो बिल्कुल खराब है उनको छोड़ दीजिए। जो एवरेज प्लस अच्छे लोग हैं, 60, 70, 80% वाले, उनको क्या मिलता है? जितना डिजर्व करते हैं उससे कम। इंसिडेंटली इसी हॉल में मैं बैठा हुआ था, एक बड़े अच्छे इवेंट के लिए आया था। एक एनजीओ है जिसने स्लम के बच्चों को ला करके, सब उम्र के लोग थे, देम वर्सेस अस की जो फीलिंग है कि धारावी वाले, मुंब्रा वाले, ये लोग हैं सोसाइटी से अलग हैं, मार्जिनलाइज्ड हैं, उनको 45 दिन के अंदर स्किल डेवलपमेंट की ट्रेनिंग दे करके एम्प्लॉयबल बना दिया। और HDFC से लेके, सिटी बैंक से लेके, रिलायंस से लेके, गोदरेज तक के लोगों के यहाँ उनको जॉब मिला। तो उस दिन जॉब अपॉइंटमेंट लेटर के लिए 100 स्टूडेंट्स थे, 250 जॉब ऑफर था उनके सामने। तो ये चेंजेस अलग अलग टाइप के हो रहे हैं। लेकिन अभी मुंबई में आता है स्टारबक्स, तो हम पूछते हैं स्टारबक्स खुला, अभी गए हो कि नहीं गए हो? तो अभी आम आदमी पार्टी में हो कि नहीं हो? टॉकिंग पॉइंट बन गया है। लेकिन ये चेंजेस बहुत अलग अलग किस्म के हैं। अन्ना हजारे का मूवमेंट दिल्ली में, योगेंद्र यादव को कोट करूंगा, दिल्ली को हमने स्ट्रेटजिक रीजन से चुना। छोटी जगह है, कैंपेन कर सकते हैं, मोबिलाइज कर सकते हैं। दिल्ली को हमने इसलिए चुना कि यहाँ पर मीडिया को हम लोग इफेक्टिवली अपनी बात सामने रख सकते हैं और वो हाईलाइट होगा। मेरा जी, इसको आप क्रिटिसिज्म मत समझिएगा, लेकिन मैं एक रियलिटी चेक देना चाह रहा हूँ। पिछले 30 दिन भी नहीं हुए हैं सरकार को बने, और 300 घंटे से ज़्यादा का कंटेंट जनरेट किया आम आदमी पार्टी के लोगों ने बैठ करके दिल्ली में। 50 इंटरव्यू कर चुके हैं इनके 5 बड़े नेता। पूरे दिन ये लगा रहता है। प्रॉब्लम ये है कि इससे हम ये इनेमर्ड न हो जाएं कि यूथ पॉलिटिक्स को एक शेप मिल गया। कहना मैं ये चाह रहा हूँ, ऐसे मूवमेंट अच्छे होते हैं। मजाक के तौर पर किसी एक अमेरिकन राइटर ने लिखा था कि 19 साल की उम्र में अगर तुम सोशलिस्ट नहीं हो तो तुम्हारे पास दिल नहीं है, और 30 साल के बाद अगर तुम सोशलिस्ट हो तो तुम्हारे पास दिमाग नहीं है। तो आंसर योर क्वेश्चन, Anna Hazare movement was definitely powered by younger generation. Those young people have hopes, even if they have failed in UPSC. It is our responsibility to give them opportunity, give them individual choices, make sure that they can actualize their potential. We have to do all of that. But this instant thing I have a problem with, and that is what our country has to be careful about. Coming back to one thing, I will make tangent for a minute. I am personally a case study for you all on this topic. बताता हूँ क्यों, on a serious note. मेरा बेटा शुरू में जब टीन एज में था तो उसने कहा, मैं जनरली पर्सनल एनेक्डोट शेयर नहीं करता हूँ, लेकिन ये रियली एक अच्छी स्टोरी है आपको बताने के लिए। मीडिया में हूँ तो पहले उसको लगा कि वो मीडिया में आएगा, तो मैंने कहा देखो हम लोग तो कुछ और नहीं कर पाए इसलिए मीडिया में थे, तुम थोड़ा ठीक ठाक लगते हो, कुछ और करना। फिर बाहर पढ़ने गया, हर साल कहने लगा कि नहीं इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकर तो मैं नहीं बनूंगा, भूल जाओ। लौट के इंडिया आया, देश घूमा, UID में उसको अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली काम करने की। उसके बाद गूगल में काम करने की मौका मिला। इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ा, पब्लिक पॉलिसी पढ़ी। उसको ये कहने में डर लगता था कि उसको पॉलिटिक्स में सीरियस इंटरेस्ट है। अभी उसने, ऑफ कोर्स मेरे परमिशन से, मैं सिर्फ इनपुट देता हूँ, उसको डिक्टेट नहीं करता, उसने गूगल बेस्ट एम्प्लॉयर है दुनिया का, उसकी नौकरी छोड़ दी है और वो पॉलिटिकल स्पेस में इस वक्त काम कर रहा है। उसने अपना एक छोटा सा स्टार्टअप बनाया है, उसने अपना एक कैंडिडेट ढूंढा है, उसके कैंपेन मैनेजमेंट में लग गया है। वो कैंडिडेट है साउथ बेंगलोर वाला। तो अब उसने कहा कि ठीक है, तुमको लगता होगा कि एक फाइनेंशियल फ्रीडम होना चाहिए, 2 अच्छे जॉब कर लिए हैं, लेट मी ट्राई दिस, आई विल लर्न समथिंग, इवन इफ आई फेल, नथिंग रॉन्ग अबाउट इट। सो आई अलाउड हिम टू डू दैट, एंड दैट्स व्हाट आई एक्सपेक्ट एवरी फैमिलीज, एवरी वन ऑफ अस, आवर फ्रेंड्स, whoever is interested in politics, they should contribute. हाउ टू कंट्रीब्यूट इन इलेक्टोरल पॉलिटिक्स, जिसके बारे में संजय जी की किताब है। ये किताब एकेडमिक रिसर्च की है, लेकिन बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग कहानी है। एक चैप्टर है उसमें कि क्या पॉलिटिक्स करियर हो सकता है। अब मैं कह सकता हूँ कि ये करियर हो सकता है, बिल्कुल हो सकता है, लेकिन उसकी ग्राउंडिंग कैसी है, क्लैरिटी है कि नहीं, कि करना क्या है, उन चीज़ों पर ध्यान रखें। चूँकि सब यंग ऑडियंस है इसलिए मैं ये बात कह रहा हूँ कि बिल्कुल डिस्करेज नहीं होना चाहिए, ये नहीं सोचना चाहिए कि पॉलिटिक्स खराब चीज़ है, नहीं आना है। पॉलिटिक्स को एक सीरियस डेमोक्रेटाइजेशन, डेमोक्रेसी तो है, लेकिन ये जो मूवमेंट चला है ये एक सीरियस तरीके से इसको मॉडर्न डेमोक्रेसी बनाने जा रहा है। जो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव डेमोक्रेसी से डायरेक्ट डेमोक्रेसी या पार्टिसिपेटिव डेमोक्रेसी की हम बात कर रहे हैं, ये प्रोसेस बहुत एक्साइटिंग होने वाला है। इसलिए अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ हैं, आप पैसा कमाएंगे कि नहीं कमाएंगे सेकेंडरी है, लेकिन करना तो पड़ेगा आपको अपनी फैमिली के लिए, अपनी सोसाइटी के लिए, इसलिए बहुत ही अच्छी चीज़ है। तो ऐसे तो सैकड़ों मूवमेंट चल रहे हैं इंडिया में, और वो मूवमेंट बॉम्बे में भी इस तरह के बहुत सारे दिखते हैं। उसको हम लोग कितना पावर करते हैं और कितना शोकेस करते हैं सक्सेसेस को, जैसे मैंने अभी स्किल डेवलपमेंट की कहानी बताई, वो इम्पोर्टेंट है।
Thanks, Sanjay. Actually, it's interesting what Sanjay said about opportunities and the dirty secret that people who don't succeed anywhere else end up in journalism. But
I was talking about
No, no, you can add me to the group. So, you know, about a year ago, Dr. Subbarao, who was that time Governor Reserve Bank of India, shared something very interesting with me. So he used to travel the country as part of the outreach. You know, he was very keen that the Reserve Bank of India should step outside its boundaries and reach out to citizens to explain what it's doing. So he said that no, every central bank has this big question that should we be bothered about inflation or growth. And he said that whenever he used to go, he would ask for a show of hands, you know, that what should we be doing? Should high inflation be our problem or low growth? You know, should we push growth? And he said it's very interesting that whenever he asked an audience of senior people, they would always vote for an anti-inflationary policy, you know, even if growth goes down, because inflation eats into their wealth, savings they have. And he said every time he went to a college or a young audience, people would always vote for growth, you know, because that's the opportunities are the critical thing. So I think, you know, what Sanjay said is true that, or even what Meera said, that the aspirations of the past 15 years have built up, and now the reality of declining growth could also be a factor. But Sanjay ji, the question again of, you know, your research stopped before the Anna Hazare movement. So a quick overview of what you think has changed since then, and I'd really like to then open the floor to, you know.
No, after Anna Hazare movement, my research indicates not only this book, but even after this book, that the assembly election took place. We collected data during assembly election also, and also recently in the month of January we did one large-scale survey, where we tried to figure out everybody's, all voters of all age group, preferences about politics, which party they would vote for. There is a clear indication that youth's involvement in politics has increased. Even before Anna Hazare's movement, it would be wrong to think that youth's interest in politics was low. It was increasing year by year. It's not that interest in politics was low. But after Anna Hazare's movement, there is a huge jump, there is a big jump. In Delhi Assembly election, we also saw a clear political preference among the youth. Large number, out of 100 youth who voted, and when I say youth, these are in the age group of 18 to 25. Out of 100 youth, 48 voted for Aam Aadmi Party. And if you compare, the other way of comparing is Aam Aadmi Party got 29% vote. But among the young age group, they got 48%. So their vote among the young age group was double. So there is a clear indication that there is a preference, there is greater involvement of youth in politics, electoral politics. They are voting in more numbers now. Traditionally, they have been voting in lesser numbers, about 5% less compared to other age group of voters, but they have voted in bigger numbers. If we look at the assembly election, they have made a clear preference for a political party. In Delhi, it was Aam Aadmi Party, but in rest of the country, it was more inclined towards BJP, maybe because of the attraction, glamour for Narendra Modi as the prime ministerial candidate. But we see that things have changed dramatically after Anna Hazare's movement.
So basically what you're saying is, what is there in the book, that the youth tend to vote like the others has changed post 2010-11.
Certainly there are clear indications of that.
Thank you. I'd like to really get questions from the young and of course senior people in the audience.
Have changed the politics from ideology to policy making, and I think in other words, has the secularism versus communalism debate is antiquated now. I mean, we are more interested in development, jobs, growth, and inflation. We are talking about that. We are not talking about Ram Rajya or any other thing. So that was my question. Has the involvement of youth changed that, or is it a natural phenomenon?
I don't see that happening, that youth's greater involvement in politics or their voting in bigger numbers or having a preference for a clear political party has actually changed the nature of politics, in a sense, nature of issues being picked up by the political parties. I don't see political parties focusing more on the issues of unemployment or better educational facilities. So not a big shift in terms of the ideas or the parties picking up the ideas, not a big shift with youth's involvement in politics. At least I don't see that happening.
Meera, you were saying that you were sharing an experience from Dongri also. If you could share that, if you had any initial other observations.
Sure. You know, I think it's a really, really good question because, and I agree with Sanjay that the traditional political parties are simply not picking this up. I mean, I've been having discussions, I will just come to the example which Niranjan talked about, but I've been having discussions with very senior leaders from both the major political parties. And my question to them is just this: are you hearing what the people of this country are saying? Because they came, someone came to me, will not name, etc., but it'll be obvious, which leading it's coming from. We're having a long discussion. I said, all right, look, tell me, are you going to continue with the Mandir agenda? And he says, you don't understand. This is a historical fact. So I said, no, I understand. It might be a historical fact. But why are we looking 5,000 years into the past? Why don't we look 5,000 years into the future, right? And he looked at me like, you're a complete idiot. You don't get anything. That was the reaction. So they're not listening. They're really not listening. Now, just to meet people, because I think this is one of the ways that politics has to change. It's all a one-way dialogue. Main karunga. You saw this all main stuff in this paper today. It's all about what I'm going to do, my baap. That's the thing. First, you listen to what the people want. So, I've just been saying, okay, let me just go out. Anybody who wants to meet me, I'm saying I'm going to come and meet you and just listen. I'm not telling you what I can do because I can do nothing. But what do you want? And I thought that, everybody says, oh, sadak, pani, bijli and all of these things and, will be the issues. It boils down. I've been up in Uttarakhand, I've been in Assam, I've been in Ladakh, I've been, across the country, in rural areas, urban areas. Yesterday was in Dongri last night. Everywhere it boils down to the same thing. Every parent wants to know what's happening about education. Bachcho ko talim hi nahi mil rahi hai. You can't get admission, right? I mean, like Sanjay said, you have to get, SRCC cut off 100%. But tell me who gets 100%, yeah? I mean, this is absurd. So what we are doing is we are not paying attention to the basic things. Jobs. And I'm telling people, Planning Commission have been having discussions. Skill Development Corporation, we need to create. There's 1 million people entering the workforce every month. Right? We need 300 million jobs. I think we need to get our minds out of neutral. There are no 300 million jobs in this country. We need to focus on enterprise. We need to focus on those things. Make it simple. I was in Malaysia, when the rupee was falling. This was a couple of months ago. Rupee was falling like it is today, yesterday. It was going down by a rupee like, every couple of hours. And I was sitting on a panel. I was very distracted. I was, tweeting to, blackberrying to my treasury. And the governor of the Central Bank of Malaysia, very lovely lady called Dr. Aziza, she took me aside after the panel discussion and she said, Meera, what's the matter? So I was apologizing. I said, ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm distracted, And she said, tell me one thing. Indian business people succeed everywhere in the world. They are the backbone of the Indian economy, of the Malaysian economy. Why are your Indian business people not able to power? I find this, argument about, top-down, trickle-down growth and bottom-up growth and all this very, very, it's an economic argument. Why aren't Indian businessmen who are able to succeed everywhere in the world not able to succeed in India? Today, whether you're a Mochi or you're a Tata or Birla or Ambani, you can't do business in India. It's just impossible. Somewhere or the other, the rules, the regulations, the red tape, the corruption gets you down, right? That's the key. That's the question we should be asking. Why can't we succeed in our country? We have the demand, you have the supply, you have the talented people, you have the capital, we have everything. It's a perfect ecosystem. Why are we not able to succeed? These are the issues of India. The political parties, the major political parties are still talking about Sikh riots and Godhra riots and Kandahar. I mean, they are important issues. I'm not trying to sweep them away. But what we need in this country, because if we don't have that, we're going to have a revolution. And that is a bad thing. We need to focus on the issues and we need to fix the issues now. That's the reason I resigned from my job. People say, why are you resigning? Why are you resigning now? Right? Chances are I will win or lose, who cares? But this is our country, right? This is the future of our kids. This is your future, this is my future. Let's fight for the issues which are important. They're not getting it, they're not hearing, they're not listening, they don't care. And they're going to lose. Whether they lose in 2014 or they lose thereafter, they're finished.
अभी तक तो ये हुआ है कि इमोटिव इशू पे, बड़ी बड़ी बातों पे, आइडेंटिटी पॉलिटिक्स पे या पॉपुलिज्म की पॉलिटिक्स पे कुछ भी बोल दो, चला लो. क्योंकि पॉलिटिक्स और पॉलिटिशियन, इंडियन पॉलिटिशियन की एक दिक्कत है, किसी भी कलर का हो, किसी भी पार्टी का हो, कि पब्लिक बेवकूफ़ है. वो एक प्रॉब्लम उनका है. इसीलिए मैं कहता हूँ कि वो सिविल सोसाइटी से बहुत पीछे हैं, पब्लिक से बहुत पीछे हैं। और एक बात मैं मजाक में हमेशा कहता हूँ कि हर चुनाव के बाद हम लोग मीडिया वाले मेरा जी इतनी एनालिसिस करते हैं, गलत निकलते हैं। लास्ट में हमारी अगले दिन की हेडलाइन क्या होती है, याद रखिएगा, पिछले सारे इलेक्शन निकाल के देख लीजिए। क्रक्स, वी डिडंट नो दैट इंडियन वोटर इज सो वाइज। क्योंकि उसके पहले हम लोग की अपने अपने इंक्लिनेशन है, अपने अपने परसुएशन है, मानने को तैयार नहीं है कि ये लोग बदल सकते हैं। तो मैं जिसके लिए वेट कर रहा हूँ वो ये है कि इंडिया हैज़ ऑलवेज बीन पंचिंग बिलो इट्स पुट इन वेट। उस कारण से क्या हो रहा है, बहुत पीछे रह गए। 78 में तो हम चाइना के बराबर थे। तो ये जो यंग होने का जो विंडो अवेलेबल है, संजय जी की किताब में अभी मैंने वो पैरा पढ़ा था, इसीलिए याद आ गया कि हम यंग हैं लेकिन जल्दी से फिर उम्र भी बढ़ेगी इस देश की। ये हिस्टोरिक अपॉर्चुनिटी का विंडो है। ये बेचैनी अब सबको मालूम है। इसीलिए अब बिजनेस लाइक काम की स्पेसिफिक बात करोगे या एक तरफ, अभी 6 महीने पहले एक बड़े कांग्रेसी पॉलिटिशियन ने कहा आप नहीं समझते हैं इस देश में पॉलिटिक्स तो आइडियोलॉजी के पोलराइजेशन पे चलती है। क्लियरली ये पॉलिटिशियन कांग्रेस का है। दूसरा पॉलिटिशियन सरदार पटेल, यहाँ मुझे बिजली, पानी, सड़क, जॉब, एजुकेशन और पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट चाहिए यार, समझ ही नहीं रहे हो। तो ये इलेक्शन ये आंसर देगा कि नहीं, उससे ये निकलेगा कि आइडियोलॉजी, इमोशन, बेवकूफ़ बनाना और हमको इंडिविजुअल समझो। हमारे दिक्कत क्या है, सारा पॉलिटिकल डिस्कोर्स आइडेंटिटीज, जमात, ग्रुप्स समझने का है। तो ये इस बार का इलेक्शन जो है इसका आंसर देना चाहिए। हम समझते हैं कि अगर यंग डेमोक्रेसी है और हमको वाइब्रेंट डेमोक्रेसी बनना है, हमको ग्रेट पावर बनना है, जो हम बन सकते हैं, तो ये तो लोगों के हाथ में, ना मीडिया के हाथ में, ना पॉलिटिशियन के हाथ में, ना बिजनेसमैन के हाथ में।
वो आपने बोला था ना that we have done some research and some data. Why is it some false data was coming before? And my second question is, why your data has not come out till now? That regarding about youth.
I'm not saying false data or see what I was trying to say. There was a lot of noise that this present Lok Sabha has large number of young MPs, and nobody even bothered to check how many MPs was there in the previous houses in the same age group, 25 to 40. So I said that when you report in the media, so this basic check was also not done, and this can be done by anyone. You actually look at the age group of MPs of all the houses and make a count, and you will figure out that in the previous houses, in all the previous houses, most of the previous houses, or except 2 houses, the number of young MPs are much bigger compared to what they are in the present house. In the present house, they are 79, and in all previous houses, they have been much bigger in numbers. So this was this basic check.
But why your report has not come out yet?
Oh, this is now in the form of a book. When we completed the research, this is the second stage of publication. We actually released the report when Ajay Makhan was the Minister of Youth Affairs. So he released the report, I think, a couple of years back. And as people in the printing business would know, that it took a lot of time for the press to, like, about 2 years, to less than 2 years, to publish the book. So it has already been made public.
Sanjay, I want to ask before I take the next question that in Parliament, these young MPs, have you studied whether they are more active in Parliament than the older MPs?
So that was not part of our study, but one data I would like to cite, that if you look at these 79 MPs, 66% of them actually come from a political family. They are sons or daughters of a political family. About the specific issue, we have not touched upon in our study whether how active they have been in the Parliament with regard to asking questions or participating in the debate. So that's not the issue which we have touched upon.
Meera Sanyal. Now you said that businessmen or anyone cannot succeed here in India, but they succeed very well abroad. So there is a problem in the structure and the system here. Now you wanted to, the Anna Hazare people passed the bill, Lokpal bill, but that is also support of all the political party. Now if you wanted to make any change, structure or the system, how would you do it? Because you need 2/3 majority in parliament and support of all other political parties.
There is a role of parliament, and there's a role of society, and there's a lot of executive action which you can take. Let's look at actually what holds people back. If you look at our laws, many of them date back 150 years. Okay? We need to have laws which are current and working for our society. So there's no shortage of ideas. Judicial reforms, police reforms, administrative reforms have all been there. What we really need is to make it very simple to start a business, to run a business, and to shut a business. I think that's what we really need. Today, if you try as an honest person to set up a business, you may even succeed in doing so without paying a bribe. But it takes you an average 2.5 years to do so. I understand that in New Zealand you can go on the website and open a business in 25 minutes. Now, I was talking with the head of TCS, and I said, look, we've got the largest IT back office in the world, right? Can't we do that for India? And he says, of course, we have already done it. We have done it in XYZ state, and he named the states. So it's not impossible that this happens, and I believe that this can happen very rapidly. I'll give you an example. We are very critical of our country, but lots of good things happen. So you are probably my age. You remember a time when you could not get a ticket to travel by air unless you knew a minister. To travel by train, you had to always pay a bribe. To file your income tax return until 2 years ago was a nightmare. Just to go and file it also you had to pay someone. All of this is now online, right? So a lot of the stuff that we are talking about, simplify your processes, disintermediate human beings who will be rent seeking, automate it, make it simple. And I'm saying that this is something that we are very, very good at as Indians. There are two big advantages we have in our country other than the demographic dividend. One is, I think, business runs in our DNA. We are fundamentally entrepreneurial people. And Indians are very hard-working people, sir. This is a very hard-working, entrepreneurial, innovative nation. When people say that India is the most corrupt nation in the world, 180th or 182nd out of 185, it makes my blood boil. Who are these corrupt people? Right? I do this often. Please, in this audience, raise your hand if you think your grandparents were corrupt. Please raise your hands if you think your parents are corrupt. Please raise your hands if you think you are corrupt, except when you have to pay a bribe to get a birth certificate or a death certificate or something. I get the same response in every audience. We are not corrupt people. We are honest people. We are decent people. We are God-fearing people. Sadly, we have a group of a very, very small group of very, very corrupt leaders. That is the problem. And they are giving this entire nation a bad name. And apart from that, they are choking up the system. Now, there's a lot of argument about FDI and the FDI in retail and all of that, which I will not go into. I had a discussion with some very, very senior people from the UK this week. And they said, there's that FDI in retail. I said, boss, you tell me one thing. Which multinational retailer can today open a business in India? You will be prosecuted under the UK Bribery and Corruption Act. You will be prosecuted under FACTA. Walmart is there for you to see. You cannot do business in India. So what we have to do is to make this a country where Indian businessmen can do business. If Indian businessmen can do business, by the way, Indian businesswomen also, if we can do business in our own country, everybody can do business in our country. It's not that difficult. We have to focus on doing it, sir. हमारे इस पर ध्यान है ही नहीं. That is the problem. Today in Delhi, Sanjay Niranjan will tell you, nothing gets passed. If you're an honest bureaucrat, you are petrified of signing on a file. Because someone or the other will say that you have, you got some vested interest. We need to have simple rules of the game. Make it simple, get on with it. Indian telecoms is such a wonderful example of that. Today, 900 million people in our country have phones, and the cost of telephony in this country is the lowest in the world. We can do it. We can succeed. It's just, to me, a matter of focus and attention. Simplify it. What is the problem? हो सकता है sir, बहुत आसानी से हो सकता है. And like Sanjay says, this is the time. This is that rare opportunity in history where our productivity ratio, the number of hands we have, the number of brains we have, far exceeds the number of mouths we have to feed. We will not get that chance again in 1,000 years. We must take advantage of it now.
Okay, so I think then perhaps we should wrap up. And I'd like to thank 3 participants here for providing a lot of food for thought about the changing nature of the electoral process and participation of Indian youth. Also, I'd like to thank the audience.